Welcome to the DAC podcast. My name is Lydia Miller, and in this podcast, I'm talking through the things that I'm learning in an MBA program and how I'm applying that information to my small business. Thanks for joining me. Now let's get started. Hey y'all, this is Lydia Miller, and if you are new, then I want to welcome you to the DAC podcast. I started this podcast to share things that I'm learning through an MBA program and as I'm running my own business as well. And I want to thank you for listening and for supporting this podcast. And right now we are in the middle of July and the summer is going by so quickly. I am close to the end of finishing 3 more MBA classes, accounting, HR, and leadership. And I will finish my MBA this fall of 2018. And it's been a super busy summer, very overwhelming, but it's been really productive. And I'm so proud of the progress that I've made so far. And if you are also listening in real time, then I want to make sure that you know that I am offering a webinar tomorrow, July 12th at 2 p.m. Central Time on the very basics of QuickBooks Online. If you don't know, I have a bookkeeping business and I use QuickBooks Desktop and online, and I do services for my clients for their bookkeeping, and I get a common question of, can you just show me the basics? Can you just show me around? And so that's my goal to do that. And so during this 1 hour webinar, I'll walk you through the program and I'll give you an idea of where things are, what things should look like, where to find shortcuts, and really just to answer a lot of the questions that I've been getting. And my goal for you at the end of this webinar is to be familiar with it, to find the basics, and to just not feel intimidated to log in and find your way around. So you can find the registration link in the show notes or on my Instagram page at DAC_balance_LLC. It's $50. It's a tax deduction, and I will send you a recording of the webinar when it's over so that you don't even have to worry about taking notes. So just be sure to sign up before it is sold out. Okay, so today I want to talk about your customers' expectations. And this is an area that can really make or break your business. And no matter what type of business that you have or what type of products that you sell, your customers have an unspoken expectation. And honestly, it probably doesn't even line up with what you're offering or even capable of offering, if we're being honest. And I've only ever run a service-based business, which is a bookkeeping business, DAC Balance. But I can speak from experience here when I say that this area is really tough to overcome no matter what type of business you have. And the key to all of this is really just communication and communicating with your customers for what you have. So we're going to talk through all of that today. So when I first started my business in 2016, I'll admit that I did this really, really poorly. And that was communicating to my customers a lot of the expectations that I had. And part of it was just that I was inexperienced and I didn't know what I could offer to my customers and what I was really capable of. And I definitely had delusions of grandeur when it came to my ability and availability to help my customers and what I would be doing in the industries and just running a business itself. I didn't realize how just time consuming that was. And I definitely have a better idea of that now. I let my customers keep their unspoken expectations, and I never told them what to expect. So here's an example. When I went to see one of my first clients, or one of my first people who called, they were all over the place, and I could not get them to focus or even sit down with me for more than 3 minutes at a time before they were up and doing something else. I should have kindly told them that when we're meeting that I would appreciate it if they could make sure that they had their schedule cleared and that they had their distractions away while we were meeting and to have an agenda there of things to go over. But I would go to meetings even with other clients just to meet and to not have an agenda. And that gave them the expectation that I was always available, that I was very flexible, which at the time it was, but I didn't want them to get the idea that, and they did get the idea that they could email me any time of the day or night and I would always be available. And that's not a precedent that I wanted to set, but I didn't realize that I was doing that. And so it kind of just fed into their expectation of, well, she's always available since she works from home, and it just didn't work out in the end. So that was really frustrating and that was hard to learn, and it really you have to realize that it's also is your fault. I had to realize that it was my fault that I set that expectation and that I didn't put the boundaries there. So here are some of those unspoken expectations that your customers have. One, what level of service that you're giving them. And like I said, they may expect you to be available 24/7, especially if you're in a service-based industry, and for you to respond to all of your emails immediately or, really, really soon after that. So a good way to combat this is to schedule a time when you can meet with them and talk about their business so that they know every week that you're going to be there for an hour or 30 minutes, or you're going to call them for that period of time, and that they get that amount of time, but they're not just going to be able to call you any time of the day or night to get an answer. And a second thing would be how valuable the service is. I've met a lot of clients, and some of them think that bookkeeping is just easy data entry. Anybody could do it, no big deal, and that it's not really that important for the whole accounting process. Or I've met other people that are completely terrified of it. They don't want to touch their QuickBooks. They don't want to do anything with it. They don't think that they can do it. And you kind of want to find a middle ground for it. You want to make sure that they know that they know the value of it and the benefits of what you're doing, but also that they need to be involved as well in the process. Another unrealistic, unspoken expectation that your customers have is the turnaround time on projects. If you don't tell them when you need information by, then they will wait until the last minute, and then they may expect you as well to have something back to them immediately or the next day, or your turnaround time to be really short. So a good way to combat this is to tell them that you have a 2-week waiting, that you are 2 weeks out at this point if they call, and just say, I'm 2 weeks out right now. You need to wait until this date for me to work on this project. If you want it before them, you could charge a higher price, or you could look at the project and say, well, you don't actually need this. If it's like taxes or something, you probably have to do a little bit more wiggle room with that. But if they just need a report, it might be that you say, I can work on this on Monday, but I can't do this today. But just be upfront with them and tell them. Don't say, oh yeah, I'll get on this right away, and still wait another week. Make sure that you tell them that you're going to be waiting another week to do this project, just so that they know what's going on. Another thing is the quality. So do they expect something to last forever? Now, most people should know that that's not going to happen with anything that they buy, but they need to be reasonable about how long your product or service is going to last. And this is especially true if you are doing social media. And so what works today in social media is not going to work a year from now. What worked a year ago is not going to work today. They shouldn't think that their social media plan that you've created is going to stay the same. So make sure that they realize that they need to do a check up on this every few months or every time a new platform is released. And they probably have an expectation on you that you have all the answers for the problems that you're solving, and you may very well have a lot of the answers, but don't be afraid to say that you don't know something and that you can check on something and follow up with them. But just make sure that you actually do that and get back with them on what their question is. So now that we've talked through just a few of the unrealistic expectations, let's talk about how you can change your customers' expectations to what you're really offering in your business. And so this is where your marketing and your communication skills come together and are really, really important for your business. And you can't ignore this no matter what type of business you have, whether you're very analytical, more like what I am, or whether you are a little bit more scattered and you just want to do your thing and you don't want to worry about the business side of it. You have to worry about the business side of it, because if you don't, then you're not going to have a business. So you want to make sure that you do focus on this area just a little bit, carve out maybe an afternoon or a few hours to just work on your communication skills around this area. And I promise it'll make a big difference in your business. So number 1, be upfront with what you're offering. You want to have it in writing. You want to have your policies in writing. You want to know what they are. You want to probably even put them on your website. You want to make sure that your customers know if they're right now emailing you at like 11 p.m. and expecting a crazy fast turnaround by like 6 a.m. or by like noon the next day. And if you just can't offer that, make sure that they know that. Make sure that they know that if they send you something, it's going to be at least 24 hours. This is just an example. Maybe like a 24-hour response from you, even if the response is like, I've got it, I'll start working on it, and this is the day that I'll have it finished by, or that it's going to be a week. But make sure that you have it in writing, that they know what's going on. Communication is key there. A second thing would be to have a contract, especially if you're in the service-based industry. Make sure that you have a contract that the clients sign, and you can have a short paragraph in there just on expectations and spell it out entirely for your customers. Maybe that email policy, or that you're going to meet once a week, or that there's a 2-week turnaround, or that they have to have documents to you by the first of the month, or that they need to just realize that, in a kind way, make them realize that they are not the center of your business world. I've had clients who have thought this before, and I've had to basically spell it out for them that they can't just expect and demand things all the time. And once I did that, the stress levels for myself went down significantly, for sure. So number 3, make sure you include all your fees and your prices. Okay, so there's this airline that came to Pensacola, which is where I live, and they offered these really, really cheap flights to a few cities. I think it was to like Denver, and to Chicago, and maybe somewhere in South Carolina. I'm not sure, but they kept advertising these prices, and they were really cheap. It was like less than $100 for a round trip flight. And I was super excited because I thought, oh, maybe my husband and I can go away for the weekend. It'd be really inexpensive, and that'd be really fun. And we'd never been to either of these cities before. And I was talking to my friends about it, and she said, yeah, but that's not all the prices that are in there. And so it didn't include the bag fee, which I don't think that most of them do, but it was a little expensive. There was like a seat fee, and there was all of these extra taxes and fees attached to it. And so by the time that I priced out what 2 tickets would cost, it was twice what I expected it to cost. And I didn't book the flights because I was just so disappointed. And it was still cheaper than like Delta or anything like that. It was still cheaper, but I was just so disappointed that it was so much more than what I expected, that I didn't want to purchase from them at all, because I felt that they were not being upfront with what they were talking about. So make sure that whatever you're selling, that you include all of your prices. You don't want your customers to be surprised when it comes to them paying the invoice. I would even say, if you're selling a product, to include shipping costs so that customers aren't surprised by that either when they go to checkout on your website. The only thing that I would say, you probably can't do a sales tax. You have to add that in at the checkout, but just make sure that you include as much as you possibly can. And even that your prices say does not include sales tax or does include shipping, and don't start adding on all of these other things that you weren't expecting to pay for sure. Okay, so the next thing would be, and it goes along with what we just talked about, was having a price sheet that lists all the prices, include a description of your services and what the turnaround time is, and just a little blimp of what you're offering to your customers, and maybe even what they can expect from it, and just what they should be hoping for whenever they buy a product. I just did this recently with my pricing sheet for my own business. You can go to my website and look at it. You can go to lydiagmiller.com and you can look at it there just to like give a reference for what it would look like. And I've included on there the price and the title of the service, and then a little explanation of what it is. And even before I sign a client on with a contract, I make sure that they now understand what is going on, what's happening. I make sure that they realize what I'm going to be doing and what they're responsible for, just so that we're all clear and that nobody is upset either way after we've started doing business together. And the last thing that I want to talk about in this category is to show pictures of the products or service, how you can what you can do. And I know this is hard, especially in my industry, which is accounting, because I can't share financial statements. It's not like a picture where I can show, I took this beautiful picture at a wedding and I could do this for you. I can't show that for other people, but I can share my knowledge of QuickBooks or of business or of just different things I've done for my customers. And so I can share that in my degrees and things like that. But if you can share a picture of your product, or even if you are like a social media specialist, or if you create websites, if you could just put that information in there and on your website and say, take a look at these clients, see what I've done in the past, then your customers will get an expectation from that as well. And make sure that they know as well, if they are looking at the cheapest package, that they're not looking at the most expensive package of a website. So if you are doing websites and if you have, let's say 3 different levels, make sure that if a customer is looking at your lowest level of what they can expect, that they look at an example of that as well. And that you don't just always share the top line of everything, because then they're not going to get a realistic expectation about what they can expect at the end. And they're going to be upset whenever it doesn't look the same. So just make sure that you're fair to them to show them what they should be expecting as well. So there's also a flip side to this, and that is this, being really good at something and not sharing it, or being really good at something and having your customers expect you to not be really good. So having potential customers not realize what your skill level is, then they might not want to hire you because of that, because they don't know that they should expect good quality from you, or that they should expect something really good from you. So here are a few ways to change that low expectations in your customers. Number 1, your prices should reflect your skill level. If you are charging bottom of the rung prices, people might not want to expect much from you, and they will not want to hire you either. If you aren't charging what your service is worth, then that's going to communicate to your customers that this is a very low quality item, and that you're not going to find the best client. You're not going to find your avatar or your niche for what you're looking for, really, because they won't expect that from you. And people are kind of expecting to pay a certain amount for a service, whether it's photography or bookkeeping, or anything like that. So for instance, for my bookkeeping business, if I were charging $50 a month for a client to do a lot of things, they're probably not going to expect much, and they might not even want to hire me, because they're probably thinking, okay, so this means she has no experience, or that this is really low quality, and I don't want to use that for my business. I want to use someone a little bit higher quality. So charging the lowest price is not going to help you out in your business in the long run. Number 2, another way to change that low expectation is to share your qualifications. So on your website, make sure that you have what I call a bragging page on yourself that lists all of the amazing things that you've ever done and earned. And by the way, no judgment if you don't have this finished yet. My own website, lydiagmiller.com, is a work in process, and I don't have this finished quite yet, but I am working on it. But make sure that your clients know what you've done, and that you brag on yourself a little bit, so that they know your skill level and what to expect there. And another way to change the low expectation is to look professional. And this can change the tone of the whole business if you treat how you look like how you want to be treated. And number 4, have professional communication. So putting "Hey girl" at the beginning of your emails is friendly and it is approachable sounding. But if you're going for a professional feel, then that's not a great approach. You want to put something more professional there as well. And clients and customers are going to treat your business how you show them how to treat your business. And if a client has been around for a while and you have tried to get them to be more respectful or more professional, and you've set up boundaries and they're just not respecting those, it's okay to decide to let them go. Or it's okay to spell it out entirely to them, even if you have a new contract coming out, which you should be updating your contracts every year if you have them. If you don't, make sure you have them for a service-based business. You want to make sure that you put in there the expectation of turnaround times and about how often you're going to be meeting and how often you're going to be talking, and that there's going to be an agenda, and that you're going to go over just the things that you have put on the agenda, and that you have a certain expectation of them as well for what they should be doing. I'm not going to lie, this is one of the hardest things about running a business, but it is so worth it in the end to do this for your business and to do this for yourself, and to make sure that your customers' expectations after you've talked with them and really educated them on your business line up, and that you meet all of those expectations, and then you can go above and beyond that to help build in that brand equity and that that brand value that you're going to give them. That's when you build it in, after you've set the expectation for your business. So if you haven't done this already, be sure to hit subscribe. This is only season 1 of the podcast, and I plan on doing 9 more seasons to coincide with the other 9 classes that I've taken for this MBA program. And in the fall, I am going to start the technology series, and I can't wait. This was an area that I really struggled with whenever I started my business, and I feel like after taking this class that I'm more equipped and knowledgeable, and that series is going to start in either September or October of this year. Again, thank you so much for listening. I know that you're doing a great job in your business, and I will talk to you again next time.